this class coming up, Find Photo Clients Now, is what I want to talk about and what I want to introduce you guys to some of the stuff. If you're not taking the free course, if you haven't taken the free course yet, I'm going to encourage you to do that. So let's get into it. Why do I call it a system? I think it has to be a system because a system allows you to create your own structure in and around it. And I think that's so important when you're doing this. Not any one thing will work for everybody. It just doesn't. A system is something that you can put in place and understand instantly, and then take that understanding and move on and create something of your very own. And I think that's the best thing to do. It makes the stuff that is just kind of, you know what, when people talk about being a commercial photographer, they'll say things like, well, what you do is you get some clients and, you kind of want to go, what? What do you mean just get some clients? What do you mean build a stunning portfolio? What do you mean put a list together? After doing Project 52 for so many years, I can tell you that the simplest things are not as simple as people who've been in the business a long time make them feel. Today, I got a copy of a very well-written ebook on becoming a commercial photographer, and it says something along the lines of put together a really dynamic portfolio. Okay, and then it says, build a list. Okay, well, that's great. Super. I love that. But isn't that like not nearly enough information for any of us? Really? Because if I said, how do you make your first great movie? And somebody said, oh, you get a good script and then you find a really good actor, and then wouldn't you want to stop and say, whoa, that script thing. What is a great script? What is it? Do I write one? Have somebody else do it? Do I look for something that's out there? Do I collaborate? Are there agents? Are there people that can help me get one? How long should it be? Is there a place to find good scripts? All of those questions were sort of dismissed by a simple, well, just go get a good script. We don't want to do that. In this photography business and in this particular class that I'm teaching, we're going to go right through what it takes to do this. What is a good portfolio? How do you know when you're ready with that portfolio? How do you know that portfolio is going to work? It takes a lot of hard effort, takes a lot of focus, but it can be done. We can make it happen, folks, by understanding the process. That's the easiest thing for me to say. Let me just explain to you just a little bit about the history of who I am. And I'll start out by saying, I'm an old guy. I am definitely put in my time, done this, been doing it for an awful long time, folks. And that means that I have kind of an understanding and an insight into the business that a lot of people may not have. And the system was created by me and with input from a lot of people along the way, but it was created out of pure sheer terror. Okay. Before we go any farther, if you don't know who I am, I've never been famous. I've never been a famous photographer. I never photographed, actors and actresses. I worked in Phoenix, Arizona. I worked for clients large and small, everything from Motorola and Intel to mom and pops. I shot for some national magazines and local magazines. I've always made a living as a photographer. And when I did that, when I first started to be a photographer, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no real clients. I decided that because an ad agency, a guy worked at an ad agency, asked me to make a photograph for him. Simple photograph. It took me a week to do it, and he paid me $250. I thought, holy mackerel, this is the life for me, being a photographer. And it's literally the main focus of my life since I was probably 18 years old. So the only people I knew when I stopped doing my other job and became a photographer were ad agencies. Since I'd worked at an ad agency and graphic design / ad agency, I knew ad agencies hired photographers, but they weren't really interested in me. I was untried. I was untested. I didn't have a portfolio that really made any sense because I was just, work my day job and I go out and take, quote, cool pictures, unquote, and then I put them in a book, and the book didn't hold together. And I really didn't have a clue how to move from where I was quickly, because I did kind of need to move quickly. Savings that we had brought with us to LA were running out quickly. And my new wife, we'd only been married for a year. She was starting to wonder, what kind of derelict she had married. And I needed a damn plan. I needed to figure out how I could make money. It was an interesting thing. I was coming, we lived in right outside of Long Beach, a town called Lakewood, and I had my studio in the backyard and everything. I was coming home down Lakewood Boulevard, and there's an industrial complex happening. There's a photo shoot going on outside the industrial complex. It's like a light bulb went off inside my head. I thought, well, when I worked at the agency, we handled companies' work, and we created brochures and ads and graphics for them. I wonder now if those companies are doing it on their own without going through an ad agency. And if you don't know the story about me getting a job at an ad agency, I'll tell you someday, but that can happen sometimes when you just lie your way into a job. I had no idea what I was doing, but apparently I was pretty good at it, so they kept me around. So that was where the idea of the system first started. It's where I started saying there are people out there who are hiring photographers, and I just didn't know who they were, and I needed to know who they were. So the system was born. Lots of hard work, tons of patience, and I realized after meeting with, I asked for help. I met with photographers, I met with graphic artists, I met with designers, ad agency people, and I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And they said, "Your portfolio, sucks. Obviously, you're a good photographer, but you got pictures of the sunset in Long Beach. We don't need that. We don't need this. You've got pictures of models, and you're not a fashion photographer." I eventually became pretty good in fashion, but I wasn't a quote fashion photographer at the time. So I had to totally redo that. And ladies and gentlemen, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do it. It wasn't like I had plenty of money in the bank and I could just take my time and redo a portfolio. So that's when I sat down and worked very hard to create a dynamic portfolio on paper so that I could go out and shoot it. I needed to have something to help me rein in my, ADD or whatever. Too many shiny pennies. That's always been me. It always will be me. I'm going on, mid 60s, and it's still me. I mean, I'm attracted by that's really cool, I'll go shoot that. Or, oh, that's really cool, I'll go shoot that. And I love that, but that didn't get me a portfolio. I had to put it down, and I started writing about my portfolio. I started pulling images, and this is the very first time I made what's called a photolio. Those of you who are taking the free class know what that is. Those are my guys are my Project 52 folks who know what that is. So when I put this system together and it started working, I was absolutely blown away. I was very, very excited. So I started putting a system to everything. The business started to just kind of I do. And I'm really upfront. If you've taken the free course, if you haven't done that, there's a link at the end. If you've taken a free course, you understand that I tell you right up front, this is not an easy thing to do. You guys want to be commercial photographers. You want to be professional photographers. I'm not sure I could come up with too many other career paths that are harder than doing this. It's just damned difficult, and it takes a lot of work and a steady commitment and a focus that is beyond most any other things. You're going to be part entrepreneur, part business development person, part artist, all of that. It's just so important. But the work started coming in because of the system, and at this point, the system wasn't really complete yet. I mean, it wasn't. Uh, fully fleshed out. But a couple of thieves realized that I had too much stress owning all that camera gear and stuff there in a little studio in Western, so they ripped the door off and relieved me of all that stress and gear and stuff. So I was both pissed and depressed and really upset, and I really built up a pretty good business, and I had nothing. And boom, we moved back to Phoenix, where I didn't really have any clients left. I hadn't been here for several years, so I had to start over. But I had the system, and as well as the system worked for me in LA, it worked better for me in Phoenix. I made my categories. I went out and found my verticals. I started introducing myself to the people, and within a year, I had a studio again. I had my gear back. I had an awful lot of things. And before someone says, "What about insurance for your gear?" I was on Western in Los Angeles in the early '80s, and insurance was just out of my price range. And I did all this, by the way, folks, without a bank loan and without a line of credit. I have never asked the bank for money, and I've never had a line of credit. I've always operated on cash flow and the honest to God, heartfelt belief that if I couldn't afford it, I couldn't afford it. End of story. If I can't afford it and now I'm in debt for it, now I really can't afford it. I knew a guy at the time who decided he would go and get a Hasselblad system because his business wasn't doing very well. So he went into debt for a Hasselblad system, about $25,000. Yeah, they cost that much even back in the day, 25 grand. So now he has 25 grand worth of Hasselblads, a big monthly payment, and it still wasn't getting work because guess what? Had nothing to do with Hasselblads. Nothing. Let me talk to you a little bit about the system itself. The system is built on 4 different basic structures. A client-centric portfolio, that is your body of work. It's the kind of work you want to do. Don't try to second guess people. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about how to stay focused and move forward with that portfolio. But it's got to be client-centric, and it's got to be you're making photographs that art directors want to see, not from a specific point, but from a point of view of your work. Then you find and identify the types of businesses, industry, clients who should be using you to do that work. And I say that very, very strictly. They should be. You have to feel in your heart that this company, they should be using you because you're going to bring them value. If you don't feel that, you're already strike one. You're already standing behind the base, looking scared, because at that point, you've commoditized it. If there's no reason that you can give them for them to hire you, then all you're going to start doing is charging less. That is a quick and fast and deep run to the bottom. Not worth it. After we've got those kind of lined up, we're going to get detailed and meet the absolute people, real people who should be hiring you to make those images. And then we're going to stay on top of mind for those people who haven't hired you yet, and even doubly top on mind for those people who have hired you. Why? Because as hard as it is to get a client, or as hard as it is to keep a client, it's twice as hard to get one. So keeping clients is so much easier than trying to go out and acquire them. And I did all of this without the internet, twice. By the way, I should add in there 3 times, possibly 4 if I look at the last venture, 3 times, because we did the same thing with the ad agency I formed in the late 90s and became the 3rd largest ad agency in Phoenix, Ocean Integrated Media. The internet isn't going to make it easier, but it's going to make it quicker. It's very much quicker for you to use the tools of the internet than it was back in the day when we did not have that access. And twice I did this system without internet. There was no internet, and it was expensive. I mean, just redoing your portfolio back in the day, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was over $10,000, if not double that. Film and processing was expensive. Digital, a little bit different. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics. A client-centered portfolio. What is that? What is a client-centered portfolio? Well, it's more than just your best shots, even though it has to be full of your best shots. It has to be a set of images that you feel can be used. However, again, I'll caution you, we're not talking about trying to think like, well, what do they want to see? They want to see bottles on white seamless. No, we're not going to do that. This is a collection of your best shots that have a body of work. What is a body of work? It's something that ties those pictures together: style, vision, point of view, how you interact with the people. When we get into the class, and when you get into the free class even, but we get into the main class, we're really going to look at bodies of work and what that means and how we can develop that. And I think a good portfolio is something that you've thought about and created specifically for your for showing to clients. It has to have forethought and attention to detail. It has to have some design to it. Again, it can't just be a random bunch of pictures. It can't. Now, if we're going to go down the figuring out what clients want to see exactly, I will say that's a very bad idea, because you'll never know. If you do that, you won't have an authentic portfolio. You'll have what you think they want to see, and I will tell you that they want to see whatever you have other than what you thought they were going to see. I've been hired by clients who saw a still life portfolio and hired me to do product, or a product portfolio and hired me to do fashion, and all kinds of things. You don't ever second guess. And I think one of the other things that we're going to talk about is you have to take criticism pretty well. You have to take criticism to understand where that criticism is coming from and understand what it means. In other words, you show your book to somebody maybe the very first time, and they say, "Oh, I really like your book. It's really good, but I'm not crazy about this shot here." You've got 2 choices. You're going to go home and take that shot out of your book, or you're going to say, "Well, I understand," and thank them and what have you, and not take it out of your book. And I would say that's what you've got to do, unless you end up with 25 or 30 people saying, "Boy, that picture just sucks." Leave it in your book, because it's your shot. You've already gone through all the work to put it in the book. And guess what? You can't please everybody. You just can't. You shouldn't even try. You have to please yourself and create good images. If you know it's good and you know it's authentic and it's visually exciting, then you leave it in the book. Someone else is going to like it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If you've gone through all the work it takes to build this kind of portfolio, someone else is going to like it. You have to show your clients that you can solve problems with your portfolio. If nothing else, that is the biggest part of whether they're going to hire you as a new photographer or not, is can you solve problems? These don't have to be big problems. It doesn't mean you've got to figure out some way to photograph the inside of a pickup truck without taking the top of it off or anything large like that. But anytime you have two people in a photograph interacting, you've solved a problem. Anytime you've got something shiny in a photograph with something with a lot of texture and you show both, you've solved a problem. Those are the things people want to see. Portfolio of a bunch of 30-somethings looking vacantly at the camera against pale backgrounds maybe not be the best thing to do. So you've built your portfolio. Who wants to see it? You don't have any idea who wants to see your work. You know why? Because I've been there. I know what it's like to have to be standing there going, all these people are working today and I don't even know where clients are. And how, or you read about some photographer doing something cool in the magazine and think, what? How did he get that job? Where was I? Why didn't I know about that? Well, we're going to start out by researching the clients who need you. Clients do need you, and you've got to have that in your brain. We're going to look at verticals. You can call them channels, verticals, buckets, whatever you want to call them. These are the categories of the types of clients who use images like the ones you produce. If you're doing lifestyle, who uses lifestyle? Well, anybody who does lifestyle. Pharmaceuticals, health companies, health magazines, health whatever. If lifestyle is your passion, there are places that use lifestyle photography. If you're a still life shooter, who uses that? Magazines, product companies, fabricators, importers, etc. But before you get into your verticals, you don't have a clue who's going to look at your pictures. After you do the research, you kind of have a list and you kind of go, wow, there's a lot of people here who could use my photography. It gives you confidence. And it also allows you to start seeing what the possibilities are for your work. And when you do this and you start to see that you're shooting for a purpose, it changes everything about your photography. Your photography becomes more dynamic, more focused. I guarantee you, it really, really does a good thing with your photography. In fact, as I say here, without the list of verticals, building a list, that's the other thing that they tell you to do in like 1 or 2 paragraphs. Building a list is a giant waste of time because you can go and buy lists of names, or you can get them from the Business Journal, or you can do whatever you want to get lists of names. But that's just a shotgun method because you're just sending something out to a name. Steve Johnson over at such and such agency, here's a picture of my stuff. Let me tell you how big of a waste it is. For 10 years, I was the creative director of an ad agency that I started literally in my bedroom. Became the 3rd largest ad agency in Phoenix. And I would get, and during that time, I didn't shoot as much as I had previous to that because be careful what you wish for. I had turned my photography business into a photography/design agency. Then we started placing ads, and all of a sudden I found myself wearing suits and ties and going to client meetings with PeopleSoft and Intel and all kinds of stuff, and I didn't get to shoot as much. But since I was creative director, I was the recipient of all these ads and postcards and direct mail from photographers from all over the world. And wow, did they get it wrong? Did they ever get it wrong? They sent me stuff that was simply terrible. They sent me stuff that made no sense at all. They sent me car pictures. I got postcard after postcard after postcard of fashion, of glamour, of high adventure. Our ad agency handled mostly medical and medical technology. We were deep into medical and medical technology. It was easy to do at the time that we were a business. You could actually go onto the internet there in 2000. There was an internet. There was even Google, and find our ad agency and find out everything about us from our websites here, clients and everything. But it was obvious that these people hadn't even bothered to see what we were into. They were going to show me a truck against the sunset now, and somehow I was going to hire them. You know, it didn't work back then, but ladies and gentlemen, today it doesn't work at all. Not at all. Those days are far over, and gosh, it's great that it is, because that's just a giant waste of money. You go out in the backyard and burn your money before you do anything else with it. So I'm glad those days are over. Now, once we've found those verticals, those categories, we're going to get real personal and find the people who we need to connect with. And an axiom you should always remember, something that works from photography across everything, is that people hire people. They don't hire portfolios. They don't hire studios. They don't hire production companies. They hire people. And that's what you are looking for, a people-to-people connection. So you got this great list of verticals, and now you're going to take that list of verticals to the internet to find the company's firms, designers, ad agencies, people in charge of who hires photography for them, for those verticals. And where all we had back in the day was the black book, a once a year annual that would come out called the red book, and the ubiquitous phone book. But now we have Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, Snapchat, blogs, Tumblr, online business lists, and everything to give us stuff. As a matter of fact, we can even get in touch with the people. One of the exercises that we show in the class, and some of the Project 52 folks have seen this, is we can actually look up a photograph. That's a cool photograph, and look, it was taken for this company. This company is one of our verticals, and oh, by the way, this company is in our town. And within 3 minutes, we have the name of the art director who hired the photographer to do that shot. That's pretty cool. That's not something we could do before. Like I said, the internet doesn't make it easier, but it does make it faster. The system allows you to make the take the contacts that you make and structure those so that you understand that you don't want to become persona non grata by bugging people or becoming a pest, and you have to create a system that lets you completely focus your marketing, completely target it, and make it so simple that it almost runs on autopilot. And I use the word almost because we have always found that if stuff runs on autopilot, it just doesn't get done. I'm never impressed by any client that I work with who wants somebody else to do the job for them. I'm just not. So you've got to really make it work for you. Once we have those people, the names, Bob, John, Jones, whatever, we're going to have to stay in touch with them. Shotgun marketing isn't going to work. It's way too expensive. Targeted marketing makes sense. We know who they are. We know what they do. We know how they hire photographers. And now we've got to get in touch with them and remind them that we're out there. This is where all forms of marketing come into play, whether it's your Instagram, whether it's direct mail, which still works, by the way, for many clients. Email marketing, if it's very targeted and it's very good, it works very well. Photographers are sending out magazines. They're doing things on LinkedIn, on Behance. For the past week or 2 weeks, I've been very focused on Snapchat because that's a pretty interesting new venue, and photographers are being hired to photograph brands on Snapchat. Well, without a system to really follow all of these things, you can go down that shiny penny path real fast and end up bouncing around from here to there. You start a direct mail campaign and then you forget to finish it, or you forget to send out the second one, or what's worse, you send a email marketing thing out and then you can't remember who you sent it to, and you send them another one with the same picture on it. Disaster waiting to happen. So terrible thing that can happen if you don't have a system. You can take the system and also make some notes as to how you're getting response. When you're doing direct mail, if you're not getting as much response off of email that you are off direct mail, then maybe you should focus your attention on direct mail. Or if email is killing your direct mail, you're sending out 50 pieces of email and getting 0 return, you're sending out 50 emails and getting 3 returns, maybe we ought to focus on email. The nice thing about a system is it can let you move between where you are and where you want to be. A well-prepared campaign is not wasted. It may not bring you instant ROI, but it's not wasted. It's so important that you create something powerful and ongoing. If you make a connection with somebody the very first time and you don't stay with them for a while, they forget you. They may be one of 50 art directors that you know. You're one of 300 photographers who contact them. Those are the numbers. Harder for us to remember than be remembered than us remember them. So we've got to market really smart. We've got to market really powerful, and we have to continue that. One of the interesting things back in the day, we had these books that would come out every quarter, or once a year for the big ones. The big black book and workbook, they came out once a year. And the dangerous thing about going into the black book is if you're in there for 3 years and then things get tight and you don't buy one for the 4th year, people think you're out of business. And so if you start to market to someone, you need to have a campaign fleshed all the way out. Sending out one email is not going to do it. And I think part of the system, as I teach it, is understanding how dangerous it is to have expectations other than the real expectations of just getting your stuff out. So, Steve is not here tonight, but James is here. And I would like you to meet James. Hey, James.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
I wanted you guys to meet James because James went through Project 52 just a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2012.
2012.
Actually.
And much of this system was talked about during Project 52. And I still remember that email I got from you, or maybe it was a Facebook post where you said, "Holy crap," something along those lines. Things were slow for your business, and you remembered what I'd said, and you went out and did it, just did it, and what happened?
It worked.
It worked kind of fast, too, if I remember right.
Yeah, it did. So yeah, but it's something you have to keep up with.
Well, you never stop.
And I think this is the biggest problem a lot of guys have, and girls, is like you were talking about, send one email out and wait for all the thousands of responses to come back, and they won't. You got to keep up with it.
Not only will they not, but many, many times they the work that you do, like when I say don't have expectations, we talk about the quid pro quo. If I send out X amount of postcards, I'll get 5 jobs. No, not necessarily. As a matter of fact, you could send out 25 postcards and get 2 jobs, and chances are they won't even come from those postcards. The, the, the way this business works is that top of mind stuff. Reading about a young man who markets almost none at all. All he does is post to Snapchat. He's a young guy and he shoots young people doing young things. And the brands contacted him. He went from being a guy who photographed his friends skateboarding to a guy shooting for 5 national brands, making well over 6 figures in like 6 months. They found him. They sought him out. In the commercial world, we have to make ourselves available to be sought out. So, James, if I remember right, you actually took the tack of actually contacting the art directors that you had identified.
Yeah, I built a list. I was one of the people that kind of went through when you were first putting this together, and we did some testing and stuff like that. And yeah, I went through and looked at agencies first. Low-hanging fruit, but it's an easy list to make. So I Googled up all the agencies using Google Maps to see how far away they were and worked my way out in concentric circles. And something you touched on earlier that's really, really important is for every agency I found, I went to their website and I found something unique about them that I could say, I think I'm a good fit with your agency because I noticed this on your collateral page or this on your about page.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I found out was there are a whole lot of agencies out there that I really didn't want to work with. They
Absolutely.
they were really crappy.
Absolutely. Isn't it interesting? So many photographers feel they have to get every job that comes in, and I would say, no, you don't. No, no, no. You should get the jobs that are right for you. If it's not right for you, I had a client want to pay me big bucks to do some sort of thing in a small fixed wing airplane. And guys, I don't get on airplanes that aren't big enough for women to bring me drinks, okay? Or guys to bring me drinks. Anyway, I don't go around in little one passenger airplanes. I did a helicopter job once, but that was because of a helicopter, and they told me it was going to be a big helicopter, and it wasn't. But anyway, I turned down jobs. I turned down a big um, calendar job back in the 80s because it was going to be girls in underwear and automatic weapons and booze and everything. It didn't fit my brand. I just would not have. It just wouldn't have worked for me at all. So I just said no. You've got to turn down the jobs that aren't right for you. If they're not right for you, you won't do a really good job of it anyway. So, and
Well, the other thing is you have to identify the people that aren't your clients as early as possible. I had a thing this last weekend. Somebody called me. They had seen my work. They had actually talked to someone I had worked for, and they told them how much they liked working with me and all this. They had 19 shades of lipstick they needed shot for their website. So I set up a meeting. This was Saturday afternoon. I set up a meeting with them for Monday afternoon, and the time came and went, and 15 minutes later, so I called them to see if they'd gotten lost or whatever. Oh no, we found somebody to shoot the whole thing for $75 since we talked to you at 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel a bit bad about losing that one.
No, guarantee it. No, they would have been a pain in the ass anyway. Well, partly because if that's all they really care about putting into their business, then they're not really in business, are they? I mean, they're not. That's how I look at it. If they can't figure out that good work sells lipstick better than bad work, they're not really in business. James, Steve made it. Steve, you're out there, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Hey.
Steve made it. He wasn't on this list. He was on the other list. He didn't come in as a panelist. So Steve is oh, by the way, let's tell everybody where you are. You're in James. You're in West.
I'm in West Palm Beach.
Yep, West Palm Beach, Florida. It's always fun to go visit James, especially in the winter. Did you have a winter this year?
Yeah, we had the usual 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. Yeah, right. It's been tough.
Actually, I think Steve was down here that little stint of winter.
Yeah, still where Steve lives, it really does get winter. Steve is up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and you've been using the system to some success as well.
Indeed, I have.
Tell us your story, because it's pretty interesting how you went from where you were to commercial photographer.
Oh, wow. Geez. I got downsized. I was in IT. I had done, when you were doing the traveling roadshow workshops, I had studied under you for several years, attending your workshops and staying in touch with you. And then while working in IT, I got downsized. Fortunately, I had worked with the company long enough. I took my severance and said, okay, the writing's on the wall. It's now or never. And I put together a book. I still have that book, which I look at now and I think, oh dear. But I started going out and meeting people. I did a lot of volunteer work with a newspaper style magazine that was in town. So I was exposed to a lot of people and a lot of events. And it was basically networking. It was hitting the sidewalk and getting out and meeting people. Let me step back for a second and say that Fredericksburg, Virginia, though it is halfway between Washington, D.C., and you've got the heavy hitters of Nat Geo and that up there, and then Richmond, Virginia, which is where all the agencies for the Virginia region are, or the Mid-Atlantic region are. Fredericksburg is kind of a small little microcosm where they aren't as metropolitan as Richmond or Washington, D.C., certainly not Washington, D.C. So there was a lot of networking, ground pounding, meeting, shaking hands, getting to know people, and showing them the quality of work that you had prepared me to create. And it, as you said, the work started trickling in. And so that's kind of as quick as I can get to where I am now.
And you are at a point now where you've plateaued, where you're planning on moving up to another level of client.
Yes.
And those are always fun days. It's almost like starting over, but at least you have that base that you can lean back on.
Well, the finding commercial clients now portion, and especially section 2 that you're starting to work on, is exactly where I'm at in regards to going back through my library of images and the recent work that I've done and culling a more purposeful portfolio, a more cohesive collective body of work. It's exactly what you say, and I have to profess here to the listening audience, if you do what Don says, it works. It's worked for Jim. It's worked for me. It's worked for several of us.
Can
But
I let me say thank you for that too, Steve. But let me say this about this system: it's not magic, and it's not convoluted, right? It's it's fairly simple to do, but it's once it's laid out in the system, it makes it so much easier for you to follow through on it that I'll make a very brash statement. If you do what I tell you to do, you will get a commercial photography job, and that will lead to another one. If you do it, you can't help but do it. There's a caveat involved, though. If your portfolio is not up for it, or if you're just a major jerk, people hire people, so you can be a major jerk with a great portfolio and not get a gig. You can be not ready to be out there with a portfolio that's not ready and not get a gig. I've seen photographers complaining on Facebook. We all have about not getting a gig, and then when you go and look at their portfolio, think you don't have a body of work. You got a picture of a fish and a butterfly and your daughter's graduation and a cool shot of a boat. Clients just don't get it. Then they're never gonna hire you. I mean,
yeah,
we will have time for some questions if you want to go to the questions thing here. Question for me or James or Steve, but I want to bounce back to James real quick. James, in your town, so to speak, are you doing mostly product or mostly people?
Um, it's I'm getting paid for mostly product.
Mm-hmm.
I am doing some people. I did a job for a company started by a couple of military veterans that does a lot of tactical stuff to sell to the military and police forces and stuff like that. Ah, the train. Um, so so I was hired to shoot their products to go onto a military supply website similar to Amazon, but regular people aren't allowed to see it.
Right.
I had an actor friend, and some of you guys may have seen this in my feed. I had an actor friend come over, and a while back I procured a flight suit, a Navy flight suit, or Marine Corps flight suit. So we did some shots with him as a colonel using the product. And I didn't tell the client I was going to do this. He just happened to be there. So we did some shots with the lights. And then when the client came to pick up the catalog stuff, I said, hey, I got something else I want to show you. You may not like it, but take a look. And he went, wow, that's amazing. The most difficult thing we have is because most of our things are lights, the only time they really show up well is in the dark, and you've managed to like bring the person into it and have the light illuminated to where people can see what it is with a dark background, and we'll absolutely use it. And so now he's negotiating with the actor for rights.
Wonderful.
So it's little things like that. If you do the job, but do something extra, and it will lead you down other paths.
Yeah, I think Steve, that's pretty much how the newspaper thing went with you. I remember when Steve called me and said this guy has this local news thing, and he doesn't want to pay me. And I said, you need the tear sheets more than the money. He wasn't going to pay Steve, and but he wasn't paying anybody, right, Steve? It wasn't a matter of like you taking money out of somebody's mouth. This guy was, basically running on empty anyway, right?
yeah, it was flat out volunteer work.
Yeah. You met, God, you did so much work for them, so many cool things, Civil War reenactors, and, really ended up putting a lot of good stuff in your portfolio. Um, and then you were asked to do a book about Fredericksburg by a local bookstore.
Yep.
How cool is that?
Yeah. It's on Amazon. Go to my website.
There you go.
Shameless plug.
Well, let me get to the dreaded sell, and folks, don't worry, it's not long. It's just really quick. The system that we're doing, I teach it live. In other words, there's modules. We have 8 webinars. There's a Facebook group where I do take part in things. The webinars are back and forth. Right now we have 12 people signed up. We've got room for only 8 more. That's it. 20 people max, because the idea is to get to everybody. Those of you Project 52 folks, yours is a separate one, but same thing. 12 modules, 8 webinars for you, because that was included in Project 52 this year. So the Facebook will be there, and we continue on the Facebook. So the Facebook isn't just something we do just for the 8 weeks of the webinars. We do it on and on. We're going to be talking about smart bidding. Smart bidding is probably the newest thing that's coming along that's changing this business. The old ways that we bid things are basically going away, and we've got to get real smart, or we're going to get chewed up by the machine. And the machine doesn't care who it chews up. We have to be vigilant and aware all the time of how to get this stuff bid. Plus, if you've never bid a job before, you don't want to look like a piker when you send in your first bid. As a art director, creative director for an ad agency, we saw lots of bids from photographers, and I got to tell you, there were some photographers we just flat didn't hire them because the bid was a mess, or it was obviously not well thought out. Or one time we asked for a job, it was 8 shots all over the valley, and the guy popped in and gave us a number, one number, that's it. And that's just not the way to do it. That you just can't. I'm not going to hire somebody who says I'll do it for $8,000. I need to know what that $8,000 is going to go for, so that I know what the heck you're doing. So smart. We're going to really be talking about smart bidding all the way through. If you're not a Project 52 person and you're looking at doing this system, right now it's $347. It's going to be $497. I'll probably run it one more time at $347. It'll be $497. And the reason is $347 is less you're going to make your first job. A. B. I have to monetize what I'm doing so that I can keep doing this for photographers. Those of you who know me know that I give away just about everything I have. I give it away. I do it all day long. Always giving to the community, but at some point I have to get something back. And second of all, and this is going to sound weird, I do it for tough love, because if you're going to pay $347 for it, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And if we give it away free, it doesn't get done. I know it sounds bizarre, and I know it sounds like maybe it's a little self-serving, but actually it's not, because nothing makes me more happy. Nothing. Maybe my granddaughter. Yep, my granddaughter makes me more happy. But second to my granddaughter is going up on Facebook and seeing Steve and Eric and James and Sam and all the folks that we've worked with, announcing they just got a cool job, doing this great job, traveling here, going there, doing something awesome. That's what makes my day. And the folks who take this class, you're all gonna do that. You're all gonna be up there talking about your work, because it does work, and it will get you in the door. If, however, you're here because you think you're going to get rich quick, well, actually, James, you got real rich though quick, right? Aren't you? You're making about $11 million a year. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they send me a special invitation to get that new Hasselblad H6.
Yeah, I bet they did. No, folks, it's a tough business. Nobody goes into being a commercial photographer to become rich. You go into it because I did it. I've done it for 40 years, and I got to meet my my number 1 and 2 heroes. I've got to go all over the world. I've got to spend my day making photographs, and the worst day making photographs is still pretty much better than the best day doing most anything else. So it's a blast doing it. Those people
Well,
who tell you it's going away, if you see that out there, ask them when they're hanging it up. You'll find out they're not. So if it's going away and if it's such a terrible business, why aren't they all quitting? You know, that just doesn't make any sense to me. There is business out there. It's changed. It's changed dramatically, but there's business to be had, and there's going to be more business to be had because we are moving rapidly into the visual world, the visual era. When people say, well, everybody's a photographer. Yes, that's true. That's a good thing. That's a good thing because that gives us that differentiator. We'll have more opportunities. In fact, I think photographers have more opportunities now than they did 20 years ago. We had magazines, we had billboards, and we had brochures. And now we have vastly more than that. And that is pretty cool. Got a lot of stuff that we can do and a lot of ways to do it. So there's no questions. I'm surprised, but that's all right. There's no questions. Steve, you want to throw something in?
Actually, yeah, a little footnote. It's for the audience listening. One of the things that initially that I took, and it took me a little bit of time to digest, is that everything Don talks about does work, but everything that he shares with us in education is overwhelming. It is not a short answer. This isn't a weekend workshop, and you're not going to learn you're not going to be given a book of secrets. Well, actually you are. You're going to be given all the secrets, but it's not a short list. It's work, and it does take time, and you have to go out and you have to get street creds. Just like any job, this is no super Zoom, but it works.
Yeah. Thanks. And
James and I will
you reiterate
testimony.
It's not a quick fix. There's no secrets. We're not going to be giving you the 10 secrets that nobody wants you to know to become a 10. That's all BS, folks. There are none. This is a real world situation, and it's really hard. But we try to make it as hard as it is. We try to smooth out the bumps so you can still pedal hard up that hill. Barbara, yeah, we are. And James, you want to add one last thing, and then we're going to be out of here.
yeah, all that being said, at 3 months into this, I was ready to throw in the towel and go back into construction. At 6 months into it, I was paying the rent with it. So it can happen. You got to stick with it, and you got to have faith that it will work.
Wow. That's amazing. Only 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, my job, much like Steve's, evaporated, and I didn't really have a choice. Make it work or do something else.
That's cool, man. I got to tell you, the fact that you did it in 6 months, whoo! That's crazy. That's great, man. That is fantastic.
A lot of emails and a lot of Sunday mornings.
A lot of hustle.
Yeah.
How much TV in those 6 months?
We've got, I don't know, 5 TVs in the house, and none of them have been turned on in 3 years.
Yeah, that's great. I was gonna say you don't do that watching TV. Definitely pushing hard, but that's what it takes. So, thank you very much, both of you guys, Steve and
Hey, thanks for having us.
coming on, and
Thank
those
you.
of you who waited out the GoToWebinar problems and we're here. Thank you so much. I'd love to chat with Steve and And James, again soon, guys, if you're up for it.
Always.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Sure. No problems.
All right, folks, there's a link right here, and if you go there to that web page in the next hour, there'll be a quick link over to the full course if you're interested in the full course, or just sign up for the free course, because the free course itself is pretty powerful. You'll get an awful lot out of the free course. Each module in the free course is close to an hour long, so it's not a little thing. It's pretty detailed, and there's no selly. We don't sell during the modules at all. We basically we send you the 4 emails with the links. You go and do the modules, and then the 5th email is would you like to buy it? And then you'll get a 6th email, would you like to buy it? But it's not one of those things that goes on and on and on and on and on. God, I'm still getting emails from somebody who has a very big name, Jeremy Carter, about buying their stuff. And, I get like 6 a day. It's like, come on. It's a system that makes you understand how to get work. And if you want it, you got it. If you don't want it, not a problem. Have a great day. And that's what my wish is for all of you. Have a great day, and we'll see you sometime in the future. Thanks again to James and Steve. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Don.